Krishna, can you take over? Thank you. You're going to help me out, Govinda? Thank you. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradari Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradari Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Kala Chanji Radha Kala Chanji Radhe Jaya Jagannatha Jaya Jagannatha Jaya Baladeva Jaya Subhadra Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. Good morning. Thank you all for helping me with that kirtan. You're all very gifted and I'm very useless, so thank you. My name is Manjari Gopika Devi Dasi, and today we'll be hearing from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 2, verses 15 through 19, focusing on verse 19. Before I begin, I ask for your blessings that I may speak something pleasing to my spiritual master, to Srila Prabhupada, and to all of the devotees. Let us all together chant the invocation prayers. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narotamam devim sarvasvatim vyasyam tato jayamudirayet. Nashta praesha badreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. All right, so yes, Tulsi Saki, thank you, has the microphone. So we'll take turns reading 15 through 19, and then we'll dive into text 19. So right now, who knows where we are in this text? Yes, so Devaki and Vasudeva are imprisoned, and this very special pastime of Krishna's appearance is about to take place. So whoever has the microphone can begin with text 15.
When the child of Devaki was attracted and transformed into the womb of Rohini by Yogamaya, Devaki seemed to have a miscarriage. Thus all the inhabitants of the place loudly lamented, "Alas, Devaki has lost her child."
Thus the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the super soul of all living entities and who vanquishes all the fears of his devotees, entered the mind of Vasudeva in full opulence.
While carrying the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead within the core of his heart, Vasudeva poured the Lord's transcendently illuminating effulgence, and thus he became as bright as the sun. He was therefore very difficult to see or approach through sensory perception. Indeed, he was unapproachable and unperceivable even for such formidable men as Kamsa, and not only for Kamsa, but for all living entities.
Thereafter, accompanied by planetary expansions, the fully opulent Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is all auspicious for the entire universe, was transferred from the mind of Vasudeva to the mind of Devaki. Devaki, having thus been initiated by Vasudeva, became beautiful by carrying Lord Krishna, the original consciousness for everyone. The cause of all causes within the core of her heart, just as the east becomes beautiful by carrying the rising moon.
Devaki then kept within herself the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the cause of all causes, the foundation of the entire cosmos. But she was under arrest in the house of Kamsa. But because she was under arrest in the house of Kamsa, she was like the flames of a fire covered by the walls of a pot, or like a person who has knowledge but cannot distribute it to the world for the benefit of human society.
Thank you. We'll now take a deeper look at text 19, which is our focus verse for today. Sa devaki sarva jagan nivasa nivasa bhuta nitaram nareje Bojendra gehe ganishi kivaruda Sarvasi jnana kaleyata sati. Please chant. Sa devaki sarva jagan nivasa Nivasa bhuta nitaram nareje Bojendra gehe ganishike varuta Sarasvati jnana kaleyata sati. Sa devaki sarva jagan nivasa Nivasa bhuta nitaram nareje Bojendra gehe ganishike varuta Sarvasvati jnana kaleyata sati. Sa devaki sarva jagan nivasa Nivasa bhuta nitaram nareje Bojendra gehe ganishike varuta Sarvasvati jnana kaleyata sati. Sa devaki sarva jagan nivasa Nivasa bhuta nitaram nareje Bojendra gehe agnishike varuta Sarvasri jnana kaleyata sati. Okay, let's proceed to the synonyms. We all sharing the same screen. I think it makes sense to do them together. Sa Devaki, that Devaki Devi, Sarva Jagat Nivasa, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the sustainer of all the universes, Matstani Sarva Bhutani. Nivasa Bhuta, the womb of Devaki has now become the residence. Nitaram, extensively. Na, not. Reje, became illuminated. Bojendra Gehe, within the limits of the house of Kansa. Agni Shikav Iva, like the flames of a fire. Ruda, covered. Sarasvati, knowledge. Jnana Kale, in a person known as Jnanakala, one who possesses knowledge but cannot distribute it. Yata, or just as. Sati, so being. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Devaki then kept within herself the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the cause of all causes, the foundation of the entire cosmos. But because she was under arrest in the house of Kansa, she was like the flames of a fire covered by the walls of a pot, or like a person who has knowledge but cannot distribute it to the world for the benefit of human society. Purport. In this verse, the word jnana kala is most significant. Knowledge is meant for distribution. Although there is already much scientific knowledge, whenever scientists or philosophers awaken to a particular type of knowledge, they try to distribute it throughout the world, for otherwise the knowledge gradually dries up and no one benefits from it. India has the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, but unfortunately, for some reason or other, this sublime knowledge of the science of God was not distributed throughout the world, although it is meant for all of human society. Therefore, Krishna himself appeared as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and ordered all Indians to take up the cause of distributing the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita throughout the entire world. Yare deka tare kaha Krishna upadesh. Amara Agnaya Guru Hana Tara E Desha. Instruct everyone to follow the orders of Lord Sri Krishna as they are given in Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. In this way, become a spiritual master and try to liberate everyone in this land. Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya, chapter 7, verse 128. Although India has the sublime knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, Indians have not done their proper duty of distributing it. Now, therefore, the Krishna consciousness movement has been set up to distribute this knowledge as it is, without distortion. Although previously there were attempts to distribute the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, these attempts involved distortion and compromise with mundane knowledge. But now, the Krishna consciousness movement, without mundane compromises, is distributing Bhagavad Gita as it is, and people are deriving the benefits of awakening to Krishna consciousness and becoming devotees of Lord Krishna. Therefore, the proper distribution of knowledge has begun, by which not only will the whole world benefit, but India's glory will be magnified in human society. Kamsa tried to arrest Krishna consciousness within his house, Bojendra Gehe, with the result that Kamsa, with all his opulences, was later vanquished. Similarly, the real knowledge of Bhagavad Gita was being choked by unscrupulous Indian leaders, with the result that India's culture and knowledge of the Supreme were being lost. Now, however, because Krishna consciousness is spreading, the proper use of Bhagavad Gita is being attempted. In the previous verses, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, appeared within the mind of Vasudeva. From his mind, he was then transferred to the heart of Devaki. From the heart of Devaki, he entered into her womb. Devaki and Vasudeva, we heard, are imprisoned in the prison cell or dungeon of Kamsa. And here, Shukadeva Goswami is making an important observation. The Supreme Absolute Truth, who is the light that can illuminate the hearts of all living beings, is within the womb of Devaki. And thus, she is effulgent with spiritual light. However, she is in the prison cell, captured by Kamsa, and therefore it appears that no one can benefit from her spiritual effulgence. The observation is that this is such a waste. It's like a fire, which is so beneficial, being kept in a closed pot, or like knowledge, which is not distributed. Srila Prabhupada is putting great emphasis on that last part of the shloka, that knowledge must be distributed. Real knowledge Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita is to understand that he is the source of everything, that he is in everything, that everything is in him, and that he is to be worshipped as the Supreme Lord. That is real knowledge, according to Krishna himself. And how do we get that knowledge? From a devotee. It's the only way we can access it. And Krishna himself descends into this world out of compassion. And it is said that a true devotee of the Lord is also very compassionate. A pure devotee experiences only one real suffering. What is that? Separation from Krishna. Yeah, well, all of these are correct. There is one also correct answer I was thinking of. Pure devotee, what is it? Yes, the suffering of others. To see the suffering of others specifically who are suffering because they have forgotten their eternal relationship with Krishna. That is the most painful thing in a pure devotee. And transcendental knowledge teaches us the process by which we can become disentangled from birth and death and be reestablished in our eternal position of loving service to Krishna. This knowledge is meant for everyone. It's not only pertinent to one segment of the world's population. It's meant for everyone, and thus it is meant to be distributed. Srila Prabhupada often said that real compassion is helping people get Krishna consciousness. He wrote, "A person in Krishna consciousness, a devotee of the Lord, is always compassionate. He is not satisfied that only he himself is a devotee, but he tries to distribute the knowledge of devotional service to everyone. There are many devotees of the Lord who faced many risks in distributing the devotional service of the Lord to people in general." In the 7th canto, chapter 6, verse 24, Prahlad Maharaj tells his demoniac classmates, "Show mercy to all living entities by enlightening them in devotional service, thus becoming their well-wishers." I'm going to read a good chunk of the purport because it's just so magnificent. So if anybody wants to pull it up at home or here, it's Canto 7, Chapter 6, verse 24. In the purport, Prabhupada explains, Prahlad Maharaj ultimately instructed his class friends, the sons of the demons, to accept the process of devotional service by preaching the science of Krishna consciousness to everyone. Preaching is the best service to the Lord. The Lord will immediately be extremely satisfied with one who engages in this service of preaching Krishna consciousness. This is confirmed by the Lord himself in Bhagavad Gita 18.69. Na cha tasmam manusheshu kashtin me priyakritamaha. There is no servant in the world more dear to me than he, nor will there ever be one more dear. If one sincerely tries his best to spread Krishna consciousness by preaching the glories of the Lord and his supremacy, even if he is imperfectly educated, he becomes the dearmost servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is bhakti. As one performs this service for humanity without discrimination between friends and enemies, the Lord becomes satisfied, and the mission of one's life is fulfilled. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore advised everyone to become a guru devotee and preach Krishna consciousness. Yare deka tare kaha Krishna upadesh. That is the easiest way to realize the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By such preaching, the preacher becomes satisfied, and those to whom he preaches are also satisfied. This is the process of bringing peace and tranquility to the entire world. Radha and Krishna descended with their eternal abode of Vrindavan to attract the conditioned souls back to their loving service. This is the essential purpose of their Leela, to give pleasure to their devotees and to attract the hearts of conditioned souls away from the movements of the mind and gather them to their service. In this age of Kali, Radha Krishna appeared in the single form of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, specifically for the purpose of distributing the confidential pastimes of Vrindavan to the whole world. And through the process of cleansing the heart, of chanting the holy names, Lord Chaitanya explains what is real preaching. In one part of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Lord Chaitanya says, the preachers of the Krishna consciousness movement are not simply meant to defeat people through various arguments. The real goal and purpose of our preaching is to somehow or other induce people to sincerely and properly chant the names of Krishna. Lord Chaitanya makes it so clear that it is the only way. Without purely and sincerely chanting the holy name, all of our philosophical conceptions will remain theoretical. Everything in our movement is based on cultivating the pure chanting of the holy names. Srila Prabhupada gave us a lot of structure by his great mercy, but His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj said that we must understand this lifestyle that Prabhupada has given us. We must understand the principles philosophically, with conviction, by studying his books, but we must also understand that it's all based on the principle of creating the proper environment in our consciousness so that we can chant the holy names and purify our hearts and give that to others. I heard a class by His Holiness Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj in which he expertly explained preaching. So brilliant. Having Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj explain preaching is like Michael Jordan teaching you free throws. So I took so many nuggets from that. But so His Holiness Tamal Krishna Maharaj said, our business is how correctly, how perfectly we can repeat the message of that we have heard from our spiritual master. Our business, he said, is to pass down the message from Krishna. And if we are pure, then there will be no less an effect from hearing Bhagavad Gita from our lips as when Arjuna heard Bhagavad Gita from Krishna's lips. Maharaj further explained that when you have heard properly, you will speak properly. And when you speak properly, you'll hear properly and you will want to preach. He said simply to hear and not preach, only half the job is done. You will not properly realize what you have heard unless you try to explain this knowledge to others. So the teaching process is twofold, he said. First, you must hear properly, then you must speak perfectly, and only when you have heard, then there will be proof that you have understood. Because if you only hear and don't share, you're going to forget everything. That's what he said. But if you do this, if you try to give this knowledge to others, you'll depend on Guru and Krishna, and they will help you. And you'll become very, very dear to Krishna. And he made one last point that I took away. He said, and who should we distribute it to? Everyone. The Panchatattva didn't discriminate. Krishna is the Lord of everyone. We hear constantly how Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his intimate associates, they were very, very much inspired to give Krishna consciousness to the fallen souls. Lord Gauranga Mahaprabhu, after he accepted initiation from Srila Ishvara Puri, he was overcome by prem and he immediately wanted to run to Vrindavan. That was his only focus, his only thought. He was running like a madman through the forest, trying to somehow or other reach Vrindavan. And I heard a class by His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj where he explained that as he's running through the forest, a celestial voice spoke to him, stopping him, saying, "My dear Lord, you are our eternal master, but you have descended especially to establish the Harinam movement. You have descended to spread this knowledge of chanting Hare Krishna throughout the world. Go to Navadvip, begin this chanting, establish Krishna consciousness, and later you will come to Vrindavan." So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he went back to Navadvip. And then, of course, later he took sannyas, he went to Jagannath Puri, and then after that, he went on his 2-year tour of South India. All Lord Chaitanya did for 2 years continuously, without stopping, is give people Krishna consciousness, the philosophy and the holy name. He was preaching so vigorously. He defied all distortions or compromises. He was attacking all misconceptions. At certain times, people even wanted to take his life. But he continued preaching. And practically anybody, if anybody, any person, any creature came in contact with him, he would introduce them to Krishna. And similarly, when he was in Navadvip, he gave the same instruction to Lord Nityananda and Srila Haridas. Go to every house, to every person, and give them my message. Worship Krishna. Discuss topics of Krishna. Chant the holy names of Krishna. Krishna is your mother. Krishna is your father. Krishna is your life and soul. Chant the holy names of Krishna. And to what extent, to please Lord Chaitanya, did Nityananda and Srila Haridas extend themselves? They approached Jagai and Madai, the two least likely candidates to discuss philosophy with. They were drunkards. They were woman hunters. They were robbers. They set people's houses on fire for fun. They murdered people. They were rapists. Why did Srila Haridas Thakur and Lord Nityananda approach these seemingly awful people? Because they know what is the heart of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And we know the story of Jagai and Madai. They wanted to kill Lord Nityananda and Srila Haridas. They ran after them. They were literally running for their lives with these murderer rapists chasing them. But then again, some days later, Lord Nityananda again approached them. And they beat him. They hit his head with a pot. He was bleeding profusely. When Lord Nityananda said, I don't mind the human heart's blood and the pain of my body, but what I do mind is seeing both of you suffering due to ignorance without Krishna. Take the holy names. Jagai and Madai, they did become great devotees. Even the demigods were celebrating the ultimate mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates. Our acharyas show that we are not to keep transcendental knowledge hidden within our hearts. We are not to keep transcendental knowledge under captivity. Rather, it must be distributed. Srila Prabhupada went to Vrindavan after he finally, after so many years of maintaining the family, he finally took Vanaprastha, he finally took sannyas, and he went to Vrindavan. What you're supposed to do, right? He lived for 6 years next to Radha Damodar Mandir, just behind the samadhis of our acharyas, Srila Rupa Goswami, Srila Jiva Goswami. But because the mission of his guru was the mission of compassion, the mission of Lord Chaitanya, Srila Prabhupada's continuous meditation was to take the love of Radha Krishna and spread it throughout the world, because he knew this is Mahaprabhu's desire. This is Krishna's desire. In volume 1 of Prabhupada Lilamrita, it's explained how upset Srila Prabhupada felt that his godbrothers were not interested in preaching. They were not interested in spreading Lord Chaitanya's movement. He said, they are simply sitting in Vrindavan or Navadvip doing bhajan. But our Guru Maharaj did not want this. He wanted us to preach. His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj said, Srila Prabhupada never left Vrindavan. Srila Prabhupada took Vrindavan to every continent on the earth. And by his causeless mercy, fulfilling the wish of Lord Chaitanya, people all over the world are now visiting Vrindavan, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, seeing the beautiful forms of the Lord, serving Vaishnavas, and chanting the holy names. Fearlessly, Srila Prabhupada went to preach against all odds, at the risk of his health, at the risk of his life. And by that sacrifice, we are all here today. Srila Prabhupada was once asked, what can we do to repay you for what you have given us? He said, what I have given to you, give to others. He didn't want anything for himself. He had such compassion for the world. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, Srila Bhaktivinoda, Srila Prabhupada, all of the great acharyas in our lineage, they have given us this message. This Sankirtan is to preach the glories of the holy name, and this preaching without compromise. As Prabhupada notes again and again in the purport of today's verse, when we do that, without distortion, it is so pleasing to the Lord. If one risks their health, their life, anything to give Krishna to others, or to assist those that are doing this to give Krishna to others, that is the most pleasing thing to Krishna. However, His Holiness Radha Swami Maharaj also notes that preaching also means by our words and by our example. Unless we are following the scriptures, unless we are striving to perform our sadhana, unless we are truly trying to be the humble servants of the Lord's devotees, our actions speak louder than our words. One of my, I grew up Catholic, and my favorite saint was Saint Francis of Assisi, and there's a famous quote attributed to him. He was, he started his own monastic order, the Franciscan order, so he trained all of the other monks, and he told them, now go out and preach the gospel, and if you must, use words. But Prabhupada has given us so many wonderful books. First of all, how to live, how to organize our lives, down to the minute detail, then how to preach through our lifestyle and through our words. We have been given such immense fortune by Lord Chaitanya. He took the most esoteric secrets of Vraj Bhumi and distributed them through the whole world through Sankirtan. In the purport to Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 2, verses 36-37, Srila Prabhupada writes, the activities of the Krishna consciousness movement are meant not only for oneself, but for others also. This is the perfection of Krishna consciousness. One who is interested in his own salvation is not as advanced in Krishna consciousness as one who feels compassion for others and who therefore propagates the Krishna consciousness movement. One should come to Krishna consciousness to release oneself and to also release others. His Holiness Radha Swami Maharaj explains that preaching is not a superficial matter. Preaching is an act of real dedication, in the mood of sincere service, trying to be instrumental with a grateful heart to those great souls who have saved us. And by doing so, by sharing the transcendental knowledge that has been given to us with a grateful heart, we please them. And isn't that the only purpose in life? To please Krishna's devotees and to please Krishna? All the realizations and gifts of the spiritual world are available by the mercy of the acharyas, by the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself. And so the best thing we can do is to serve in the mood of the servant of the servant of the servant by sharing whatever we have heard. I'd like to hear now from you all any reflections, comments, certainly corrections. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mishra Bhagavan.
Thank you for the class. We often talk about Jaghai and Madhai, how we're saving the Jaghais and Madhais. But we're out there trying to save Jaghai and Madhais by doing Harinam Sankirtan, book distribution. But what we don't have is the Sudarshan chakra on our side. Like Jagai Madhai is being delivered, a big part of that was the attitude adjuster that was spinning on the
Mm-hmm.
tip of Lord Chaitanya's finger that was just about to chop off their heads. So we say that we're trying to save the Jaghais and Madhais, but the Jaghais and Madhais were saved by in a lot of ways by the Sudarshan chakra. How do we save Jaghais and Madhais without having the Sudarshan chakra to back us up?
I feel like you could answer this question. I always am wanting to hear your stories of Sankirtan. You've been doing it for 50 years, this service of book distribution and traveling. I'm sure you have much deeper realization on all the other preachers. But I will say the point that I have heard from the great souls in our movement is simply not to discriminate between who is eligible for this and who is not. I think certainly if we're preaching one-on-one, we have to make good decisions for our own safety. But as we heard from Prahlad Maharaj about what we tend to do within our minds is think friends and enemies instead of thinking that everybody is a spirit soul and maybe there's some way that Krishna can reach them. That's my answer to that.
I was also impressed by how you spoke about, hearing. We must preach what we hear.
Yeah.
And a reflection I had on that was just like to maintain our body, we have to inhale. We also have to exhale.
That's really
So in the
nice.
same way, we have to hear, receive, we have to give, we have to preach. My question in that regard, though, is sometimes, actually I have a number of questions. I'll just back up here. I really like that point you said that we're not here to defeat by argument only, but we are we want to melt people's hearts. I'm just paraphrasing what you said. Where did that quote come from? That was a beautiful quote.
His Holiness Radha Swami Maharaj,
Oh,
the
okay.
Chaitanya Charmrit. I haven't found the verse yet, but yeah, that's what he said, that Lord Chaitanya makes that point.
Is that from a lecture he gave?
Yes,
or- yeah.
I can send you the lecture.
Okay.
But I have also seen, if it helps, I have seen that is how the most effective preachers are. And that is how His Holiness Radha Swami Maharaj trains people to preach, is to really, based off of heart connection, based off of softness. I'm going to embarrass him. I want to give the example of His Grace Gokulananda Prabhu. The little bit I know about preaching, I learned from him, and everything he learned about preaching, he learned from His Holiness Radha Swami Maharaj. And he has always taught me, you have to preach in a way that doesn't hurt people's feelings. You don't want to say, something that will make them feel badly about, for example, the way they were raised or what their background is. So anyway, continue.
I think that speaks to your point too about, like Mishra Bhagavan mentioned the Sudarshan chakra. I seem to recall, wasn't there some quote that in Kali Yuga we don't kill people's physical bodies, but we kill their mentalities. And seems like that the approach of softness with strong argument and logic, that combination is just as powerful as the Sudarshan chakra. And that was just a reflection.
That's very nice.
And also you mentioned something about Michael Jordan and
Yeah.
free throws.
Yeah.
I couldn't quite catch that. Could you?
Oh, no, I was just saying how I listened to His Holiness Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj give a class, and there was a section of the class where he talked so specifically about preaching, and I was like, wow, this is like Michael Jordan teaching you free throws, this most brilliant, erudite, expert Sankirtan leader telling us what is pleasing to Krishna, why the process of teaching, why you need both things. So it was just a little joke. Sorry if it didn't land. He's a basketball player, if anybody's listening. Michael Jordan is considered the greatest basketball player of all time.
Hare Krishna. Speaking about Sudarshan Chakra, there's this beautiful verse that comes to my mind. It says, Sudarshana Mahajvala Koti Surya Samaprabha. Sudarshana as not only the function of destroying the demons, but the major function of Sudarshan Chakra is explained here in this verse. Koti Surya Samaprabha. It is effulgent, like millions of suns rising together. Ajnananda Saminityam Vishnur Margam Pradarshaya. This is a prayer to Sudarshan. So, Ajnana, like we say, Timiranda, Ajnana Timirandasya. So, Ajnana means ignorance, nations. Ajnananda Saminityam Vishnu Nityam. Eternally, please show me the path to Vishnu, Lord Vishnu. Vishnur Margam Pradarshaya. So, when we are trying to preach, like we are all, like I can talk about myself, like this movement is meant for Jagai Madai, is for the bottommost and offers the topmost. So Sudarshan Mahajvala. So Sudarshan is always protecting us in the form of leading us to the path of Lord Vishnu. That's what I was thinking about.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna, thank you. Very nice class. I was just contemplating this last section of the purport where Prabhupada is really on fire here. He's saying that the real knowledge of Bhagavad Gita was being choked by unscrupulous Indian leaders, with the result that India's culture, knowledge, and knowledge of the Supreme were lost. So you can see he's like, you can feel his frustration,
Yeah.
It's like having been born in that culture and having been raised, given that knowledge, from a young age from his father and other mentors and his guru, and then seeing how. Yeah, I was just wondering if you can share some thoughts about who are these unscrupulous Indian leaders and how are they choking the knowledge? Like, what is Prabhupada referring to something specifically, or what?
Well, I think he is. There's someone sitting here, I think, who could answer this question better than me. But if you read, I know you have read Lilamrita, I know you're well versed in Prabhupada, but in Lilamrita, it's very well articulated how he was trying to get the powerful people of India at that time to take to Krishna consciousness, and he was always frustrated. First with Mahatma Gandhi. I mean, he was writing to Mahatma Gandhi. This is before he obviously took sannyasa many years. He was trying to get him the real Bhagavad Gita, the message of real Bhagavad Gita, and the letters weren't. I don't even know if the letters reached Gandhi before he was killed. And then he was always trying to reach the Prime Minister. What was her name? Indira Gandhi, thank you, Indira Gandhi. But nobody was always fully interested. But in terms of people specifically choking the culture, choking the transcendental knowledge, Gokulananda Prabhu, do you have any thoughts on this in this part of the purport where Prabhupada's very strongly speaking against unscrupulous Indian leaders? So you grew up in India and...
Most of the Indians, no offense, they're puffed up in demigod worship, impersonalism, and sort of voidism also. Like in Prabhupada's prayer, we have Nirvishesha Shunyavadi. So most of them, they think, including myself, little bit of knowledge, we think we know so much, and we don't need to hear. So what to speak of spreading it to others? And also, one more thing that comes to my mind is, before coming to Hare Krishna, even I had this understanding that Hinduism is basically, one needs to be born as a Hindu. Okay, so someone who is not born in Hinduism cannot have an access to the Vedic scriptures. That is the biggest misconception, biggest misunderstanding, which is a stumbling block in preaching.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna Manjari Gopika. On the point you made about inducing others to pure chanting of the holy name. So there is also this consideration that if you have Shuddhanam, you can give Shuddhanam. If you have pure names, you can give pure names. So when we know that we're not at that stage of pure names, chanting pure names, what should our meditation be when we are trying to give? Or should we just focus first on cultivating pure names, chanting of pure names?
I'm not sure exactly what you mean, because in terms of giving it's not like we're sitting with them and teaching them how to chant japa, unless maybe you specifically do that with people. But the point Prabhupada makes over and over is that we're not supposed to keep these things to ourselves. And at the same time, we don't want to be hypocritical. I understand that. But when we're not at the pure chanting of our japa, doesn't mean that we can't share kirtan or speak to others about the benefits of chanting one round a day if you have that relationship with someone. I personally think it's dangerous to have a mentality of, oh, I'll share this when I'm at this stage, or when I'm at this place in my life, then I'll do X, because that's just a game the mind is playing. I don't know if anybody has. Yes, Prabhu. Please, yes.
I think she's saying that because she feels like she's not chanting purely, or she doesn't have a pure understanding of the philosophy, that you can only give what you have. And so she wants to give the pure, genuine item, and she feels like, well, I can't do that. Yeah. Till we've gone through an art and a vritti, how can we give the pure names? So my answer is that it doesn't matter. Prabhupada said that we should just be like the postman. So the postman just delivers the message, just delivers the envelope, just delivers the parcel. It doesn't tamper with the contents. And whether the postman is, intelligent or not, clean or dirty, it doesn't affect the contents of the parcel. So yeah, Prabhupada has given us, his books. They're so carefully prepared, the whole philosophy and the lifestyle of Krishna consciousness, and we basically just, here it is,
Thank you.
Thank you for the wonderful class. Someone asked my Guru Maharaj this same question. I just heard his answer. He said something similar to Mataji, that it's true that it's a fact that we can only give what we have, but by giving them access or association with Srila Prabhupada or other Vaishnavas, then they're getting association with a pure devotee. So we can give more than what we have by giving them a book or by giving them association of saintly Vaishnavas.
That's a perfect answer. Thank you.
And I also had a question. You were talking about preaching softly and not upsetting anyone. I was just thinking about, we see examples of Srila Prabhupada or Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, and sometimes they're very forceful, and externally people might have gone away upset in some ways. So I'm wondering, how do we, of course, we can't speak in the same way as them, but how do we understand that we should please speak softly, please everyone at the same time?
Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad I have the opportunity to clarify that. What I meant was, when we're dealing one-on-one with new people who in general have no understanding of anything, the best thing to do is to establish a relationship, to establish a connection and a platform of encouragement. to right off the bat, and I was thinking of this. I've heard of so many people who have been in ISKCON for decades and decades, and all of them have one story of when they were new and they preached to someone, and it's oftentimes someone close to them, like a family member, and they have so many regrets of how they started that they went in all wrong. They went in too aggressive, they went in too judgmental, and that person had every right to be upset with them and most likely never ended up coming around. And everybody has one story that they carry around with them that they just wish they could have done things differently because they didn't have maturity at the time as to how to approach that. And also, in the preaching that I have experienced, and it's really, especially Gokulananda Prabhu used to do this because he was the head of hospitality at ISKCON Chowpatty. So his whole job was to be there and to receive visitors. Oftentimes it was the first time they were in the temple. It was playing the long game, you know, rather than thinking of, I'm going to throw everything at you right now. It's where are you at? And what can we do to encourage where you're at and also like expand? So that's what I meant by being understanding and empathetic and soft. If someone is a yes, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, Lord Chaitanya, Srila Prabhupada had absolutely zero tolerance for people who were saying that they were God, for people who were saying, you know, all is one, things that are obviously outrightly offensive. Then I think we see that the acharyas do confront that in a very strong way. I hope that clarifies what I meant.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I wanted to reflect on this point. You brought up Haridas Thakur and Nityananda Prabhu, how they went to great lengths. And you also cited Srila Prabhupada's example to please Lord Chaitanya in spreading the Sankirtan movement. And I'm wondering how far we should go. How do we know what's too far, what's too dangerous? Like even just at White Rock Lake Park yesterday, it wasn't so bad, but there was this man in a big truck and his girlfriend was very interested in the book, but he forcefully called her back into his truck. And in fact, he was so enraged with us that he blasted this foghorn that he had installed on his truck. I've never heard something so loud. It shook my entire body, and he pushed it for like 10 seconds straight, and we had to run away. It was very disturbing. And then he just drove away like a madman. And so I was thinking, you never know, someone like that could have a gun.
Mm-hmm.
And how do we know what's too risky in our attempts to share Krishna consciousness in a crazy place like Texas?
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for your dedication. Absolutely, we want you to be safe. I hope that as brahmacharis they establish some kind of like trainings for when a situation has gotten a little too heated and how to walk away or something. To your point, Texas is a pretty crazy place. How far is too far? Isn't the Gokulananda, what would you say? Prabhupada Priya, you've been preaching around the world about Sankirtan many years. I have never really put myself in those situations, so I would like to hear.
I have an interesting incident that happened when I was out there on book distribution back in Mumbai. So I was on the local train and I made an announcement in the compartment. It was the luggage compartment, by the way. So there were so many hawkers with their huge, the Indian typical sort of baskets carrying the vegetables and everything. So I made the announcement, and there was this guy from other faith, and he challenged me, why do you bring the Almighty down to this earth, And Krishna just inspired me and said, oh, you read this holy book? I said, yes. What is it made up of? And he said, the paper. And how does the paper come from? The tree. And where does the tree come from? The earth. So do you not see, do you not feel that sanctity, that purity when you're reading the book? But he couldn't take that in good spirit, and he started blaspheming me left and right, he started abusing me, hurling abuses, literally swear words. And then there were some Hindus, as soon as they heard that, they said in Hindi, Maharaji, now just leave it to us. And there was a riot that, took place there. There was one party, and there was this Hindus, and there were fist fights, literally. So then I thought this is not going good. So
Were you in
from the
Saffron?
running train, I had to literally throw myself out because then I didn't want to get into that mess. So yeah, we don't want to get into these troubles. So there is a theoretical thing we hear sometimes, but it has to be applied as per time, place, situation. And whatever Krishna inspires, just deal with it.
Hare Krishna. Whenever I've had experiences with aggressive people, it's like as soon as you see that they're going to start getting aggressive, I just immediately go into pacification mode. I just start saying whatever I need to say. It doesn't matter what it is. Just say whatever I need to say to get them to just be peaceful and go away, basically, without hurting me or making a scene or something.
Just to diffuse it. That's true. Just diffuse it. Just placate.
If I could add a little story from Indagunda Swami. There was a girl doing book distribution in France once upon a time. And there was a man from Spain, and she approached him and handed him a Krishna book, and he got really angry with her and actually threw her off the train onto the platform, and I think it broke her arm.
Oh.
And the man, he didn't give any money, he just threw her off the train, but he didn't throw away the book. He had the Krishna book. And for some reason, he didn't, in spite of doing all that, he still had the Krishna book. So then he got home, and he brought it inside, and he threw it into the rubbish bin in the kitchen at his house. Yeah. So his wife came along, and she saw the book in the trash can. So she picked it up out of the trash can and put it on the shelf with the rest of the books. And he was a successful accountant and had a big house and lots of books. So then time went by, and for some reason his life kind of fell apart. Things went wrong. He ended up bankrupt, and he lost his wife, and a lot, everything bad that could happen just happened to him. He had some medical problem, and his whole world fell apart. So, in frustration, he pulled that Krishna book off the shelf, and he started reading it, and he became a devotee. He became a devotee. He joined the temple. He ended up becoming the accountant and the temple treasurer.
Wow.
So anyway, it's interesting. It was that Mataji, she risked her life, but somehow he became a devotee out of the whole thing.
Thank you.
Very good.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah. So I had a question. You mentioned earlier that fire, like in a pot, can be very beneficial. And I was thinking that also fire, if it's misused, can be very destructive. And we were speaking earlier about how, if we're not, if we don't understand, if we just like the postman, and I'm just playing the devil's advocate here. I'm not challenging. I'm just trying to get a deep understanding. If we're the postman, just giving this knowledge without following ourselves, without not having the realization, can that also become destructive?
I don't know if it'll be Well, I guess if people blatantly see you being hypocritical, someone that you've preached to, right, then seeing you hypocritical, then that makes them lose faith. But overall, I'm thinking that preaching without following, I don't know how effective it would be. You know, I don't know if you get the mercy of Krishna if you yourself are not really striving. Are your words as effective? I don't know.
Or maybe, like if someone is trying to follow, but, they're, due to conditioning, they're having some difficulty. That's different from someone who's
Blatantly disregarding,
right.
thinking that's for other people, that's not for me.
Right.
Yeah, I would think so. We know Krishna sees our intention. Krishna is the most compassionate, the most loving. It's like the best dad. He just sees what you were trying to do and is so excited by it.
Thank you, Prabhu. I think the point I'm getting is that if we're sincere, even if we're at a level that we're not chanting pure or we can access higher energy, access our guru's parampara and be able to distribute is what I guess the point that was coming out. The point that Brihat Mridanga Prabhu made about I've been thinking about that ever since he said, it's like that girlfriend, I think she really needed it, because the way you're describing her boyfriend, and she is with this person, she really needs a way out. So you were that instrument to that crack that she needed, and so I guess Krishna knows, and that's why she was attracted, she was drawn, and needed that. So that was the only thing I was thinking. So thank you.
Yeah.
But she knows. Yes.
Yeah. That's right. 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 That's right. We're the first step. Any parting thoughts? All right, thank you all so much for teaching me, for helping me, for tolerating me. Srila Prabhupada ki, Srimad Bhagavatam ki.